On March 5, 1943, at Norfolk Naval Base in Virginia, the inaugural U.S. hunter-killer unit geared up for its voyage across the Atlantic. Aboard the USS Bogue, Captain Giles Short, the vessel's skipper, examined a coded dispatch from the 10th Fleet. Decryptions from ultra-intelligence had cracked German naval signals pinpointing several U-boat refueling sites. The supply subs U-459 and U-487 were set to replenish wolf packs prowling the convoy paths. The ops officer grabbed the secure line. This setup featured one escort carrier backed by 4 destroyer escorts, all aimed at targeting the predators. The group consisted of USS Bogue, USS Belknap, USS George E. Badger, USS Osmond Ingram, and USS Clemson. Unbeknownst to any of them, this one mission would spark the most devastating turnaround in the annals of submarine combat. Over the next 8 months, U.S. hunter-killer teams would shatter the legend of U-boat invulnerability and compel Admiral Karl Dönitz to pull his full submarine force out of the Atlantic. Lessons from the Battle of the Atlantic showed both adversaries that undersea warfare went beyond just torpedoing vessels. It boiled down to tonnage math. Outpace the foe's shipbuilding output, and triumph was assured. Lose subs quicker than replacements arrived, and downfall loomed. The German Kriegsmarine U-boat force had seized control over the Atlantic trade routes. During March 1943, wolf packs claimed more than 80 vessels, amounting to almost 500,000 tons. April's toll would climb above 600,000 tons, marking the height of the U-boat campaign. The numbers appeared to tilt toward Germany. Each month brought 20 fresh U-boats into action, against an average of under 10 sunk. From his base in France, Admiral Karl Dönitz directed over 400 submarines. His Wolfpack strategies had almost cut the vital link between America and Britain. Convoys SC-121 and HX-229 suffered brutal losses. In his memoirs, Winston Churchill confessed that the U-boat threat was the sole element that genuinely terrified him throughout the conflict. The USS Bogue weighed 9,800 tons and housed a crew of 890. Its flight deck measured 495 feet, from which it deployed 12 F-4F Wildcat fighters alongside 9 TBF Avenger torpedo bombers. Yet the carrier's most potent assets were innovations the Germans hadn't grasped. Radar operating on centimeter waves evaded their sensors. High-frequency direction finders allowed precise triangulation of U-boat signals, and tucked into the Avenger's bomb bays was a covert device called the Mark 24 mine, actually an acoustic homing torpedo in disguise. The hunter-killer approach marked a radical evolution in anti-submarine tactics. Standard convoy guardians could merely respond to assaults, torn between chasing subs and shielding cargo ships. Hunter-killer units faced no such dilemmas. Their exclusive goal was to locate and eliminate U-boats in any area they roamed. Lieutenant Commander Howard Avery, who would eventually lead Composite Squadron 9 on the Bogue, drew from his experience in Atlantic convoy duties. He knew U-boats were weakest at 3 key moments: when surfacing to recharge batteries, linking up with resupply subs for fuel and torpedoes, or sending radio updates to Dönitz's command. German sub-protocols demanded regular broadcasts, position updates every 24 hours, instant alerts on convoy sightings, twice-daily weather notes, and post-attack damage reports. Every signal risked exposing the sub's whereabouts to Allied listening posts. On U-569, Captain Lieutenant Hans Johansson studied his patrol directives. After 7 weeks underway, fuel stocks had dwindled to a dire low. Wireless orders guided him to meet Milkow U-459 at 50°40' dB to north, 35°21' west. Johansson had helmed the sub since the start of 1943, succeeding Hans-Peter Hinch, who'd guided it on prior runs. U-569 belonged to the Type 7IC class, the backbone of the German undersea fleet, with 769 tons surfaced and 871 submerged. It held 14 torpedoes and a 44-man complement. Its 4 forward and 1 aft tubes had notched 1 merchant sinking and 1 damage in its history, a humble record mirroring the growing perils of the Atlantic. Yet the boat's core flaw persisted from the previous war. Diesel power plants needed oxygen to run, and batteries demanded lengthy surface recharges. A Type 7IC might stay underwater for 18 hours at a steady pace, but frantic maneuvers depleted them in under 60 minutes. American hunter-killer formations capitalized on these flaws through methodical strategy. They used search grids to optimize radar sweeps, timed air patrols to snag surface targets, and crafted assault plans to keep up the assault until power ran dry. At Yar 1 at 4:20 a.m., on May 22, 1943, Lieutenant William Chamberlain, flying an Avenger, picked up a surface sub on his radar screen. The contact was 18 miles out at a bearing of 090° green relative. He shoved the throttle forward and dove into his assault. U-569 was cruising along the surface at 15 knots, its diesel engines replenishing exhausted batteries following a tense night of dodging pursuers. The watch on the bridge caught sight of the incoming plane when it was 8 miles away. Alarms blared across the vessel as Johansen commanded an urgent submergence. For a Type 7C, the crash dive routine demanded 35 seconds from the alert to periscope level. Vents on the ballast tanks flew open, diesels shut down, electric propulsion kicked in. The sub's nose plunged steeply as seawater poured into the compartments by the ton. Chamberlain's barrage of depth charges struck U-569 while it was still near the surface. 4 Mark 17 charges, fused for shallow bursts, hammered the hull badly enough to drive it upward again. By then, a second Avenger, under Howard Roberts, had lined up for its turn as the sub broke through once more. Roberts launched his strike without delay, only halting when white surrender flags fluttered from the periscope. The German sailors were giving up. The Canadian destroyer HMCS St. Laurent rushed toward the site, yet as it closed in, Johansen directed his men to rig the boat for sinking and evacuate. Out of 44 aboard, 25 made it out alive and were fished from the ocean. 19 perished with the vessel. Questioning the U-569 survivors yielded crucial intel for the Allies. The captured Germans were stunned by how pinpoint the U.S. air raids had become. "They pinpointed our exact spot," one remarked. A crewman even said it felt like the enemy could peer right through the waves. Yet ultra-decrypts went far beyond spotting lone subs. Codebreakers at Bletchley Park had unraveled the full German naval reference framework, pinpointing patrol zones, Wolfpack gathering spots, and resupply meetups. Every U-boat afloat faced the risk of exposure. On June 5, 1943, planes from USS Bogue found U-217 topping off its batteries on the surface, 450 miles west of the Azores. Captain Lieutenant Kurt Reichenbach-Klinder had led the boat on 3 voyages, accounting for 3 vessels sunk, a total of 10,151 tons. Bogue's aircraft pounced at first light, nailing U-217 during those critical pre-dive seconds. Initial depth charge drops crippled the sub's ability to dive. With submergence impossible, Reichenbach-Klinder had his gunners target the planes, while repair squads frantically fixed the diving planes. The firefight on the water dragged on for 18 minutes. U-217's 88mm deck cannon and 20mm flak guns unleashed more than 300 shells. A single Wildcat took light hits from shrapnel, but the sub stood no chance against planes built for anti-submarine duty. One of Bogue's Avengers sealed the fate with a textbook depth charge straddle. The blasts ripped open the pressure hull in several places. U-217 went under with all 50 men, Reichenbach-Klinder included. Nothing remained but an oil sheen to note its resting place. No one was saved. The toll on U-boat morale hit hard and fast. Eavesdrop signals showed commanders fretting over U.S. miracle tech that tracked them, no matter their dodges. Crew assessments highlighted a rising dread of surfacing, even just to recharge. Admiral Donitz countered the casualties with shifts in strategy. U-boats had to cross the Bay of Biscay dived, no matter the power drain. Nighttime was the only window for at-sea fueling. Messages over radio got slashed to bare essentials, though such tweaks merely postponed the end. The U.S. held the upper hand in drive and tech that no maneuvers could counter. Come June 1943, 5 hunter-killer squadrons patrolled the Atlantic. Each revolved around a jeep carrier backed by destroyer escorts. USS Bogue, USS Card, USS Core, USS Santee, and USS Croatan showcased a production might Germany couldn't rival. Under Captain Arnold Beisland Isbel, USS Card's unit emerged as a top performer among these outfits. From July through October 1943, it notched 8 verified U-boat sinkings, snagging the inaugural Presidential Unit citation for such a force. The methods honed by CARD's pilots turned into core tactics. Planes would sweep outward in grid formations from the carrier. Radar blips on the sea sparked instant dives. Subs that managed a quick plunge got tagged with dye and hunted by escorts firing hedgehogs and depth charges. On August 7, 1943, CARD's flyers spotted the milch cow U-117 amid refueling ops with U-66, both topside. The tanker sub was nabbed with transfer lines still linked, hindering any swift it proved utterly unattainable. Lieutenant Charles Stapler's Avenger struck without delay, releasing 4 depth charges that bracketed U-17 perfectly. The blast from more than 4 tons of diesel ignited a towering inferno visible from 30 miles distant. U-66 succeeded in emergency diving, yet suffered harm from the shock wave. She endured this clash merely to face her doom 9 months hence in one of the conflict's strangest confrontations. Captain Lieutenant Klaus Barkston, skipper of U-521, observed U-17's demise from periscope level. His logbook recorded the dismay gripping U-boat leaders. The Americans seem omnipresent at once. Their planes descend out of nowhere. Their armaments hit with uncanny precision. We have shifted from predators to prey. The month of October 1943 signaled a pivotal shift that shaped the rest of the Battle of the Atlantic. The U-boat fleet suffered the loss of 23 subs that period, among them seasoned skippers who had outlasted foes since 1939. Every such casualty meant expertise that no academy could restore. The sinking of the milk cow supply subs hit hardest. U-488, U-4A9, and U-490 all went down in quick succession over mere weeks. Deprived of resupply options, Type 7C vessels could no longer probe the U.S. shoreline. Operating zones shrank to the central Atlantic, where hunter-killer teams lurked in swelling formations. USS Corps' hunter-killer unit perfected the strategy of non-stop aerial surveillance, stationing planes above likely U-boat sectors for days on end, draining sub-batteries via unyielding chases. This method wreaked havoc even on battle-hardened captains. On October 13, 1943, Corps' team surprised U-378 on the surface at first light. The sub's leader, Oberleutnant Zur Z. Horst Eberhard Berger, had marked his 26th birthday only recently. His novice status revealed itself in his handling of the assault, opting to battle above water instead of plunging deep right away. 4 Wildcats raked U-378 with gunfire as 2 Avengers lined up for bomb drops. The sub's AA crew wounded 1 Wildcat before blasts from machine guns cleared the bridge. The captain signaled to forsake the vessel as depth charges ruptured the hull. Just a single man was rescued from the sea. The ferocity of these fights stunned veteran U-boat hands. Korvettenkapitän Heinrich Bleichrodt, a German standout with 24 vessels to his credit, narrowly escaped a strike from USS Block Island's flyers in October 1943. His U-109 hobbled into base riddled with wounds. Bleichrodt retired from patrols, confiding to comrades, "The Atlantic has turned into a killing ground." The following month, November 1943, saw fresh U.S. breakthroughs that widened the imbalance even more. Deploying the MAD magnetic anomaly detector let planes spot submerged subs at low depths. Sonobuoys scattered in arrays could follow subpaths for extended periods. The edge in tech grew impossible to bridge. Captain Lieutenant Ralph Heinrich Hauptmann guided U-405 through 7 fruitful missions. His savvy and maneuvers had shielded his men amid ordeals that doomed inferior craft. He had honed methods to dodge planes by hiding in clouds and storms to conceal his position. On October 31, 1943, U-405 patrolled alongside Wolfpack Siegfried when USS Card's hunter-killer force entered the zone. The destroyer USS Bori picked up radar at 2000 hours, 6,500 yards out. The ensuing duel etched itself into naval lore. U-405 dived in panic, but surfaced again under depth charge barrage. With further descent blocked by injuries, Hauptmann chose surface combat using his deck armament. Amid night and rough waves, the ships rammed, Bori's prow climbing onto U-405's foredeck. For moments, they clung fast. Sailors exchanged bursts from automatics, sidearms, and lobbed grenades from inches away, U.S. Crewmen flung mugs of coffee, spent shells, and once a belt knife at the enemy gunners. The bizarre melee persisted until they broke apart. Lieutenant CMDR Charles Hutchins, Bori's commander, directed full fire on the sub. They unleashed over 5,000 rounds while U-405 tried to flee. Her bridge was peppered with impacts, her main gun wrecked, and her casing holed beneath the waves. Hoffman called for evacuation as U-405 listed aft and sank. 8 of the 49 aboard outlived the icy waters. Hoffman perished with most. Bori, too, took fatal blows and was abandoned the next day. This clash underscored how even elite U-boat aces could no longer withstand resolute hunter-killer assaults. The innovations fueling such triumphs went further than radar or guided torpedoes. Researchers in operations analysis crafted ideal scouting routes based on statistical models. Sound studies enabled separation of Allied efforts, targeted U-boat propeller signatures through advanced statistical models that forecasted their movements using vast datasets from numerous sightings. High-frequency direction-finding techniques proved especially crippling. German U-boat strategy demanded frequent radio updates to orchestrate Wolfpack assaults. Though each broadcast was brief, lasting mere seconds, it allowed Allied listening posts to pinpoint locations with an accuracy of just 2 miles. U-boat leaders confronted a dire dilemma: uphold radio silence and forfeit strategic synergy, or send signals and expose their whereabouts. The Germans trusted their Enigma coding machine to stay impenetrable. Unbeknownst to them, seized codebooks from U-559 in October 1942 had enabled British cryptanalysts to crack the 4-rotor M4 variant. Consequently, every directive from Dönitz to his submarines reached Allied spies within hours of being sent. In December 1943, multiple seasoned U-boats, survivors from the conflict's initial phases, met their end. U-172, under the command of Captain Karl Friedrich Hermann Hoffmann, had previously destroyed 26 vessels amounting to 151,000 tons. Its team was viewed as top tier, renowned for devising clever methods to breach convoy protections. On December 13th, USS Bogue's hunter-killer group spotted U-172 in the mid-Atlantic. The sub had recently aired a weather update, its location given away by direction-finding gear in Bermuda and the Azores. The initial strike involved Lieutenant Junior Grade William Fowler's Avenger, which released a homing torpedo that the sub's sound technician picked up early enough to dodge. However, such dodging necessitated fast turns that quickly sapped the batteries. Over the following 2 hours, additional planes joined to keep tabs on the target. For the subsequent 14 hours, U-172 waged a frantic bid for endurance, rising occasionally to refresh the air inside before plunging deep at the sight of radar blips from incoming planes. By 0800 on December 14th, with power cells depleted and air supplies exhausted, Hoffmann was forced to emerge and stay on the surface. The sub's anti-aircraft batteries fired at the hovering aircraft as repair squads made hopeless fixes to the damage. The fight above water dragged on for 43 minutes. Destroyer escorts including USS George E. Badger, USS Clemson, USS DuPont, and USS Osmond Ingram closed in on the U-boat, unleashing more than 400 shells from their primary guns. U-172's structure suffered breaches in 17 spots before it went under. Out of 57 aboard, 46 perished, while 13 were rescued from the sea. Questioning the survivors exposed the profound hopelessness gripping U-boat personnel. The sea had turned into a snare. Hiding proved impossible. Escape was out of reach. Combat felt futile. Each mission was seen as a potential finale. By the start of 1944, the shift was total. The U-boat fleet, once on the verge of forcing Britain to surrender through blockade, now faced methodical annihilation. In January, 19 U-boats vanished. February claimed 20. March took 23. The pace of losses grew unyielding and swift. Inexperienced youths were dispatched on voyages with scant preparation. Oberleutnant zur See Wolfgang Harrer, at 23 with under 6 months in submarines, led U-434 when Card's planes surprised his vessel surfaced in March 1944. He chose battle over submergence, a deadly call that doomed the entire complement. With every clash, the disparity in skill between U.S. and German units deepened. American aviators racked up countless hours on anti-submarine sweeps. Radar specialists mastered spotting U-boat traces amid wave interference from afar. Sound experts could recognize specific U-boats by unique propeller noises, following particular vessels over vast oceanic stretches. In contrast, German U-boat teams grew more juvenile and inept. The typical age of U-boat skippers fell from 32 to 26. Seasoned non-coms, the core of sub-warfare, became scarce. Vessels departed with untried hands who knew no action, guided by graduates of rushed courses. Admiral Donitz's offspring Peter embodied this grim pattern. The junior Donitz acted as watch officer on U-954. On May 19, 1943, British escorts trapped the sub surfaced and sent it down with everyone aboard. Though his boy's death didn't halt the admiral from dispatching other youths to such ends, it highlighted the intimate toll of the crumbling U-boat effort. The spring of 1944 introduced fresh U.S. advancements that rendered U-boat missions all but fatal. Centimetric radar fitted to every hunter-killer plane erased the cover of night. Lee lights banished shadows, spotlighting surface subs from great distances. No veteran skipper could slip away anymore. On May 6, 1944, USS Buckley showcased the ferocity of hunter-killer tactics in a peculiar skirmish. The destroyer escort found U-66 surfaced to the west. Off the shores of the Cape Verde Islands, Oberleutnant Gard Joussen had led the submarine on 9 missions, destroying 33 vessels. Yet his seasoned expertise proved powerless against the overwhelming opposition he faced. With batteries drained and diving impossible, U-66 tried to slam into Buckley. The ships smashed together at 15 knots, their metal sides scraping harshly in the pitch black. Sailors from Germany and the United States traded shots with rifles and pistols from mere feet away. The bizarre clash featured crewmen hurling mugs of coffee, spent cartridge cases, and grenades back and forth across the gap. Under Lieutenant Commander Brent Abel, the team unleashed 105 3-inch shells, 2,700 rounds of 20mm rounds, and 418 projectiles from 40mm guns over just 16 minutes. Dozens of holes riddled U-66's structure. She went down carrying 24 out of her 48-man crew to the depths. This brutal close-quarters fight marked the agonized end of a time when subs could prowl the surface like raiders. The seizure of U-505 on June 4, 1944, by Captain Daniel Galler's Hunter-Killer group out of USS Guadalcanal stood as the peak display of U.S. supremacy. Boarding teams from the destroyer escort USS Pillsbury climbed down U-505's tower as the sub still powered forward, seawater surging in via busted valves. They sealed the leaks, halted the inundation, and kept the vessel afloat. The Hall of Secrets was immense. Codebooks, decoding gear, sound-guided torpedoes, and engineering guides all came into Allied possession. Even so, the emblematic impact loomed larger. U-boat had shifted from terrifying hunters to mere captures, their operators now captives instead of fighters. As France fell in June 1944, hunter-killer units pushed into the Bay of Biscay, stalking U-boat gunning for troop transports. The narrow seas turned into a slaughter zone. In the opening week of June, 15 U-boat met their doom. Those who lived through it spoke of swarms of planes striking at once, leaving no way out. Capitan Lit Herbert Ferrer, among the rare U-boat skippers to endure the conflict, recounted clashing with these packs. Radar would pick up planes, prompting an urgent plunge, but soon sonobuoys would plop overhead. Escorts would follow, tracking relentlessly for days. We'd break the surface for breath, only to spot planes circling already. It felt like methodical wiping out. Come August 1944, Donitz commanded a pullout from French ports as Allied troops closed in. U-boat heading for Norway endured non-stop assaults from hunter-killer formations lined up on their path. From 31 subs that braved the trip, 11 vanished. The rest limped in, battered heavily with worn-out teams. The Snorkel let subs charge diesels below the waves at periscope level. However, this gadget arrived far too late and fell short. Snorkel-fitted craft remained easy radar targets and topped out at 6 knots with it active. It signaled a shift to mere survival, not renewed aggression. In September 1944, The latest hunter-killer tools rolled out. The Mark 24 acoustic torpedo gained better reach and detection. Upgraded Hedgehog launchers blanketed zones with impact-detonating bombs. Radar spotted periscope-like targets from 5 miles off. The tech gap had sealed completely. Oblivious Capitan G.A., skipper of U-10, saw 3 packmates obliterated in one October 1944 night. His log noted, "The foe wields powers beyond our reach. They hit unseen with flawless precision. We're battling not humans now, but relentless devices that don't weary, don't err, don't spare." Losses for U-Boat in late 1944 soared beyond endurance. November claimed 24 boats. December took 27. Building new ones couldn't match the toll. Schools for crews got hit by bombs. Oil stocks ran low. The U-Boat fleet was fading, and all could see it. Still, Dönitz dispatched more to the waves, pushed by Hitler's orders and his denial of loss. Boys fresh from classrooms took sub-commands after rushed prep. Full teams launched on debut voyages that doubled as their final ones. Hunter-killer squads had turned the Atlantic from a war zone to a place of doom. U-396's tale captured this grim close. Her leader, Oberleutnant zur See Ernst Günther, shared a crew whose average age hit 20. They departed Norway in November 1944, only for USS Corps' hunter-killer team to spot them in 3 days. The chase dragged on for 18 hours. Once U-396 rose, drained of power and choking for oxygen, planes overhead finished her off at once. None made it out alive. From winter 1944 into 1945, snorkel-outfitted Type 21 subs entered the fray. Capable of 16 knots underwater with cutting-edge detectors, just 2 ever went active. Prior to the conclusion of hostilities, the hunter-killer squadrons had outpaced German technological advancements simply by overwhelming them with superior quantities and methodical elimination of the remaining U-boat fleet. The figures painted a stark picture. During 1942, U-boats accounted for the loss of 160 Allied vessels, amounting to 6.2 million tons. By 1944, that number had dropped to 132 ships and 733,000 tons. These hunter-killer units had diminished the impact of German submarines by 90%. At their height, U.S. shipbuilding facilities were producing more than 140 Liberty ships each month, almost 3 every 2 days, with each capable of transporting 10,000 tons of supplies. The math behind the tonnage battle had turned utterly unfavorable for Germany. Come March 1945, the U-boat arm was mostly a theoretical entity. Out of 463 vessels theoretically at hand, under 60 were actually seaworthy. The majority stayed docked, short on fuel, torpedoes, or skilled personnel. Any that ventured out met inevitable doom from hunter-killer teams that had honed their skills over 2 years of non-stop engagements. The ultimate indignity arrived in April 1945 as U-5 struck at USS Frederick C. Davis within USS Bogue's protective formation. Though the destroyer escort went down, U-546 was swiftly tracked and obliterated by the surviving escorts just hours later. This marked the final U-boat felled by Bogue's hunter-killer outfit, pushing her tally to 13 submarines sunk. Admiral Dönitz's last wartime log note on submarine efforts included a grim concession. Our foe's dominance on the waves, especially through advances in science and engineering, has stripped away our strongest asset. The undersea campaign has culminated in failure. This shift occurred in under 2 years. Back in March 1943, U-boats had almost cut the Atlantic supply chain, dispatching ships quicker than the Allies could replace them. Yet by March 1945, the U-boat contingent was virtually wiped out, with survivors either hunkered in harbors or systematically picked off in open waters. Hunter-killer groups engineered this turnaround via consistent deployment of advanced tech, sharp intel, and vast manufacturing might. They evolved sub-hunting from a craft reliant on gut feelings and chance into a discipline rooted in accuracy and tenacity. Operational analysis and hands-on improvements refined every facet of anti-submarine efforts. USS Bogue wrapped up the conflict as the top-performing hunter-killer unit, with 13 verified U-boat sinkings. USS Card notched 11. USS Corps took out 6. These carrier escorts and their accompanying vessels had downed more subs than anyone in conventional naval forces had deemed feasible. Still, their true legacy lay not in the count, but in the approach. They proved that future conflicts would favor countries adept at fusing intel, innovation, and production lines into cohesive fighting mechanisms. Personal prowess and bravery remained vital, yet they couldn't surmount organized inferiority. The mythic age of undersea combat, where a clever skipper might defy resource shortages with guile and resolve, had vanished for good. German U-boat commanders endured not just strategic setbacks, but a profound crisis of purpose. They began the fight as premier fighters, the gray wolves set to choke Britain's sea routes. They concluded it as pursued beasts caught between an unforgiving sea that offered no refuge and a distant base they could scarcely attain. Corvette and Capitan Peter Kemmer, among the rare U-boat veterans to endure the war, reflected afterward. The hunter-killer groups left us without countermeasures. They held all the edges: undetectable radar, inescapable armaments, foresight into our positions, and above all, the capacity to appear anywhere instantly. We shifted from hunters to hunted almost instantaneously. The toll on lives defied understanding. From the 40,000 German submariners who set out, 30,000 failed to come back, yielding a 75% death toll. 784 out of 1,262 deployed U-boats met destruction. By the conflict's close, over 50% of boats on initial missions were lost. Whole cohorts from U-boat training programs perished mere months after graduation. U.S. casualties, meanwhile, proved slight. Hunter-killer operations claimed just one escort carrier in the Atlantic, USS Block Island, hit by torpedo in May 1944, and under 10 destroyer escorts across the whole effort. The sink-to-loss ratio, once tilted 10-1 toward U-boats, flipped to a 20-1 American advantage. Tactics pioneered by these hunter-killer teams shaped naval strategy for generations. Combining aerial and surface forces, leveraging intel for targeting, and employing analytical studies to fine-tune methods all entered the playbook of contemporary fleets. Anti-submarine doctrine in the Cold War drew deeply from Atlantic experiences. Yet, the deepest effect may have been mental. The U-boat service embodied German sea strength and inventive skill. Its annihilation at the hands of American hunter-killer squads showed that an industrial prowess and technological progress would shape the battles of the future. The time of personal bravery had given way to organized combat. In May 1945, with Germany's capitulation, the surviving U-boats got their ultimate directive from Donuts: emerge on the surface, hoist black flags, and head toward Allied harbors. Among the 49 vessels that followed these instructions, numerous ones were led by officers under 25 years old. Their teams consisted of adolescents who lacked any battle experience. They yielded to hunter-killer units that were ready to eliminate them using the precise, methodical approach that defined the whole effort. The final active U-boat mission concluded on May 7, 1945, when U-320 went down after British escorts attacked it. Her leader, Oberleutnant Zur Helmut Emmerich, was just 24. He and his full team of 36 sailors marked the ultimate losses from a fleet that once seemed poised to alter the conflict's course. After the war, studies highlighted the refined precision of hunter-killer tactics. Detection methods were fine-tuned via statistical models. Armament use was designed to boost success rates while conserving resources. Signal interceptions were linked to activity trends to forecast U-boat actions. Each component was polished through detailed review and real-world testing. The biggest surprise for German U-boat leaders wasn't the erosion of their edge in maneuvers, but how rapidly and utterly it vanished. Back in March 1943, wolf packs had almost cut off vital Atlantic routes. Yet by November 1943, U-boats faced relentless pursuit leading to their demise, with bases watched non-stop, signals exposed, and all maneuvers anticipated and blocked. This turnaround stemmed not from one key invention, but from blending various strengths seamlessly. Radar capable of spotting subs around the clock, planes able to scour wide areas for extended periods far from shore, armaments that could strike despite dodges, intel that uncovered foe plans in advance, production power that outpaced damage from adversaries. The hunter-killer formations had penned the opening lines of contemporary sea battles, where triumph hinged not on personal valor or expertise, but on overall dominance in diverse areas. They turned the expansive Atlantic into a clear arena where all actions were tracked, all signals captured, and all errors met with obliteration. Admiral Donitz endured a decade in Spandau prison as a convicted war figure, reflecting on the ruin of the armada he had created and directed. His writings after the war included a poignant reflection. I thought resolve and boldness could surmount shortages in resources. The U.S. hunter-killer teams showed me that in today's conflicts, tech and manufacturing might hold the key. We fell not to superior mariners, but to superior setups. The influence of the hunter-killer teams goes further than their battlefield successes. They proved that upcoming sea fights would rely on merging aerial and surface units, blending intel with maneuvers, and using scientific approaches to solve combat challenges. The advanced nuclear subs of the Cold War era, fitted with cutting-edge detectors and arms, traced their roots straight to the ideas validated by escort carriers and destroyer escorts across the Atlantic. In the chilly voids of the Atlantic depths, more than 500 German submarines lie scattered on the seabed, their metal casings gradually crumbling into nothingness. These wrecks stand as testaments to the ruthless success of American hunter-killer teams who shifted sub-hunting from a frantic guard action to a proactive drive of calculated annihilation. The youthful officers steering these fated ships had signed up thinking they were entering a premier unit set to sway the war's direction. They learned the hard truth. They confronted a rival that had revolutionized fighting itself, swapping the craft of battle for the discipline of eradication. Their dismay at this shift rippled across the U-boat ranks and into the annals of naval lore. The German U-boat fleet began 1943 ruling the Atlantic, their wolf packs tearing into convoys with little resistance. They finished the year as pursued outcasts, their outposts raided, their logistics disrupted, their veteran teams gone, and their leftover craft skulking in docks or evading ceaseless chases. The jolt of this downfall would echo in sea warfare chronicles as the point when tech, intel, and production might reshape ocean combat for good. The U.S. hunter-killer teams from 1943 to 1945 stunned German U-boat commanders not via unmatched navigation or bravery, traits plentiful on both sides, but via the methodical deployment of their commanding edge in technology and industry, turned the sea from a safe haven into a deadly arena, where accuracy trumped bravery in deciding who lived. The end results spoke for themselves. The hunter-killer teams, along with their supporting units, had destroyed 784 German U-boats. They claimed the lives of 30,000 German submariners, suffering losses of under 5,000 personnel on their side. In under 2 years, they shifted the U-boat menace from imminent triumph to total rout. This went beyond a simple triumph in arms. It proved that the essence of combat had shifted profoundly. The days of solitary submarines relying on secrecy and guile were over. Ahead lay unified fleets using advanced detection tools, armaments, and data in synchronized efforts. These hunter-killer outfits didn't merely secure the Atlantic campaign, they upended the principles of sea battles and stunned adversaries with how thoroughly they flipped the script from prey to predator.